No Time to Die was directed by Cary Joji Fukunaga and is in fact the final Daniel Craig James Bond film. At the start of this film, James Bond has left active service. His peace is short-lived when Felix Leiter, an old friend from the CIA, turns up asking for help, leading Bond into the trail of a mysterious villain armed with a dangerous new technology. Before we get into the video, a couple things right off the bat. I am getting over a cold. I apologize that my voice is not exactly up to par. I'm doing my best. The past few Halloween special videos you may have seen were pre-recorded before I got sick, and I got all nasty and disgusting, and I'm feeling a lot better now, but still my throat is recovering, so I apologize. Second, I know I said in my moving forward video that I would no longer call videos the title of a movie plus movie review, but the simple fact of the matter is I'm kind of tired of trying to figure out names for things. I took for granted how easy it was to just have a built-in title for videos. I can't believe this movie is actually out, for one thing. I mean, I feel like it's the movie I never thought I'd see. It was one of the very first films affected by the pandemic. Remember back when the pandemic started, I was reviewing movies that were in place of films that were supposed to come out. I was doing the animated Mulan. I was doing Catwoman and Elektra instead of Black Widow. And I did a bunch of James Bond reviews instead of this movie. And it kept getting pushed back even after that. I remember when I got the notice for the screening of this film, even then I was like, I probably won't see it. So I'm really glad that I got to see the movie, but also that I really enjoyed it. I'm a big James Bond fan, as you guys know, and this franchise has meant a lot to me. It's also very special for my wife and I. It was one of the very first things we ever talked about when I met her. And so the idea of Daniel Craig's run coming to an end, my favorite Bond of all time, was very bittersweet. I sat in the theater and I felt strangely very affected by the moment, and not just because of the movie, but over the past few years, especially with the pandemic, I've built a real appreciation for the theatrical experience. Since the start of 2020, I've gotten very used to seeing a lot of movies for the first time on the small screen, and just the notion of seeing a new James Bond film in a fucking theater, it kind of just hit me and really affected me, and I felt very bittersweet about the whole thing. And especially since I remember seeing Casino Royale in 2006 and just being completely blown away, having no idea what to expect going into that movie. There was so much speculation about Daniel Craig and his blue eyes, which is still hilarious. People were upset about his blue eyes, which is like one of his most stunning features. It was so stupid. Anyway, people are crazy. Going from Casino Royale to Skyfall, Quantum of Solace, Spectre, and now No Time to Die, Daniel Craig has, I think, made perhaps the best final film in a James Bond actor's tenure. I would say the only real competition is License to Kill from Timothy Dalton, which I think is a really good movie. But Die Another Day, George Lazenby had one movie, so I'm not really counting that. Sean Connery kind of had two final movies, even though Never Say Never Again doesn't technically count in the canon. It was sort of this unofficial offshoot, and A View to a Kill is kind of a comedy, to be honest. That's a very funny movie, and I don't know if it was supposed to be, but it's very funny. No Time to Die is easily, I would say, the best final film that a Bond actor has ever had. The action sequences are directed extremely well. The opening chase sequence that leads to a car chase, which we've seen a lot of in the trailer with this incredible stunt, falling off a bridge, hanging onto this rope. That was all very effective, and it starts very quickly. And I like Billie Eilish's opening song quite a bit. I think that a lot of people give her unnecessary shit for some reason because she's talented. I don't know. People are weird, man. But the film had a tough job because Daniel Craig's run as Bond is one of the very few that kind of tied together. All the movies mostly impacted the others. There were plot threads that continued. Skyfall, M, spoilers if you've never seen Skyfall, dies, and that affects the rest of the movies. They have to get a new M. Quantum of Solace was a direct sequel to Casino Royale. Spectre set up a bunch of things that No Time to Die has to deal with as well. These films weren't necessarily as standalone as most Bond films were. And so this movie had a tough job because it had to acknowledge other films of the past, things that happened with Vesper in Casino Royale. It had to acknowledge Spectre, and it had to be an exciting and thrilling, fun film in its own right. And I think it did all of those things. But it's also tricky because Bond is such a long-running franchise. And if you go back to the earlier Bonds, there are things that are in the movies that definitely would not be in the movies today. And I think they do a great job of not only presenting entertaining things that could happen in the future with characters that are in this movie, especially Ana de Armas, who's fucking thrilling in the film. She's not in the movie for very long, but her appearance is exceedingly exciting. She's fantastic in the movie, and I would honestly love to see more with that character if they ever decide to do more. But people get up in arms about a lot of things nowadays. Outrage is very popular. It's extremely monetizable to get mad about things and scream. And people were upset that they brought on Phoebe Waller-Bridge as a writer because I guess she's a woman. I don't know. That's all I can really think of. Now, I'll be very real with you guys. I notice when movies try to shove things down my throat. I've talked about that in the past. I understand when people in Hollywood who are looking at the political sphere think, well, we should probably make a movie that sort of addresses this stuff, or we should make a film that feels like, you know, people on social media will give us praise for making it, and they don't necessarily have good intentions, and they're just looking at money, and they're just looking at that type of praise that they will get from making that type of film. I understand there are plenty of people in suits, behind desks, making those decisions who don't give a shit about the messages their films have, and oftentimes those movies suffer as a result. But I also understand that some movies are really fucking good at it. And I can always tell when someone is genuine and when someone is just doing it because it's a talking point. No Time to Die does not have a single part where that radar went off for me and I thought, oh, they just put that in there to put that in there. That never happened for me while I watched this movie. People are going to go in with these expectations that they have built up because of things they've read online or articles or speculation, and they're going to feel a certain way about the movie, and I really don't think the movie deserves that type of outrage at all. I think it's kind of silly. Daniel Craig is excellent in the film. He really does give it his all. He throws himself into those action scenes, not quite as hardcore as he did in the earlier films. As he has said over the years, he's maintained a lot of injuries making these movies, and he's getting older, but there's still a lot of really great action sequences, especially one that's sort of like this longer take up a stairwell, and there's goons just coming out of doors everywhere, and he's got to fight them all and shoot them all, and it was fucking awesome. There's also an incredible shootout sequence inside a foggy forest. That entire scene was beautiful somehow. Like all this carnage is happening and people are being crushed by vehicles, but it was gorgeous. Rami Malek as the villain services the story. I would say he was pretty good, but I don't put him up there with Lashif or Javier Bardem from Skyfall. Lashif is always, I think he's just going to be the top tier for me. I love Lashif so much because, like, he wasn't a cat-stroking evil guy in an island somewhere. He genuinely had a lot of real problems, and you saw why he was so desperate. You recognize that he was funding terrorism, but he was in just as much shit as Bond was if he lost that game. And that's one of the reasons I love that character. Plus, Mads Mikkelsen is perfect. Lashana Lynch is also really entertaining in the film. This has been reported in various articles a long time ago, so I don't consider this a spoiler, but, you know, whatever. I'm just kind of putting that out there before I say it. But yeah, she does play 007 in the film because, as I already said, when the film starts, James Bond is retired. So 007 is just a number. And there's a pretty entertaining sequence when Bond and her have a little argument about what that number really means. And I think it's really cool. I think it's smart the way they handled it. And it never feels like I'm better than you because I'm 007 or whatever. You know, all these bullshit things people are always concerned about don't fucking matter. You know, just watch the movie. Go watch the movie. Give the artists the benefit of the doubt. And then you can have an opinion. You know, if you hate the movie, whatever. You hate the movie. But at least watch it first. The movie also has what I found to be a very satisfying finale with tons of 007 references everywhere if you've seen all the films. I think No Time to Die is a damn good movie. So go support a big theatrical film so we can get some more theatrical films. Because I really miss the theater, and just going to see this film felt so special, strangely. Something about the past couple years, probably barely seeing any movies in theaters, have made experiences like this feel so much more special than they used to. So if I were to rank all of Daniel Craig's Bond films, Casino Royale is still my favorite, and then Skyfall, and then I would put No Time to Die, then Spectre and Quantum of Solace. I think he is the best Bond of all time, and thank you so much, Daniel Craig, for giving us so many entertaining years as this character and the extreme dedication you gave to this role. Guys, thank you so much as always for watching. I hope you're also checking out my Halloween special. I'm doing videos on that right now. Thank you as always, and if you like this, you can click right here and get Stuckmanized.